Hello, my name is Gemard, and I'm a senior at Jonathan Law, as well as the editor-in-chief of The Advocate.
Hi, my name is Hershey. I'm a sophomore and a news editor for The Advocate.
My name is Kayla Markowitz. I'm a sophomore and a news editor for The Advocate, and welcome to the 4th episode of The Court Report.
The Court Report is an Advocate editor podcast interviewing students and staff about big things happening at law.
It also plans on being a place where students can share issues about law if they want and things they want to see changed at law.
If you haven't yet, check out our first 3 episodes, which are now all on Spotify.
In this week's episode, we interview Jonathan Law principal, Mr. Darcy, about the new ePass system that will be implemented right after Thanksgiving. We're now joined by Jonathan Law principal, Mr. Darcy. So our first question is, what would you say the real changes between our current or like our old pass system to the new electronic one?
Well, first of all, good morning. Thank you for asking me to come on your podcast. I feel like this is going to be like a world famous podcast. So appreciate your time, all three of you.
We're going to blow up any day now.
Absolutely. I'll share it with family
With
and
our
friends.
4 ratings.
Yeah.
I rated our podcast.
Perfect. All right. I'll have to do the same, especially this episode. Really, to put it in its simplest form, the biggest change is that instead of you writing your name or when you're leaving a classroom, you're using a computer now. You're clicking a button compared to writing your name out or getting a physical paper pass as well. Those are the 2 changes. We don't have physical paper passes as well. So those are the 2 things that I see as differences so far.
So just to clarify, because this was a question a sub had earlier that I had them today. When you get a pass, you take the paper pass with you, but you don't take your Chromebook to the bathroom with you, correct?
No, yeah, you definitely shouldn't be doing that.
Right? Because the person was like, my Chromebook's going to die.
So yeah, you shouldn't be bringing your Chromebook to the bathrooms just in general with what happens in, germs and bacteria that forms in bathrooms itself. That's actually another reason why people don't like their traditional laminated passes either, because you're bringing those into the bathroom and God knows what happens in there.
Wait, but what happens if someone forgets their Chromebook?
Well, so if a student forgets their Chromebook or if they forget to charge them or anything like that, the teachers have their Chromebooks. They have computers in the classroom. Teachers also have use of the app as well. So there's all these different things that are in place as safeguards. So we're encouraging you to bring your Chromebook just like any other day. You should have your Chromebook. But of course, if something like that happens, it's not going to prohibit you from going to the nurse or going to the office or whatever you need to do.
And do students have access to the app as well yet? Last I heard, we didn't.
So we're trying to not have students use the app yet, because just as you know today, with it only being live for 3 hours or so, we're finding little kinks that we're learning about too. We've had the ability to use the system for just over a month. Myself and a few other staff members in the building have been testing it out. But just like it's new for students, it's new for staff too. So we're learning little things from it. So that's why we've been trying to steer everyone away from using the app right now, because we don't know enough about all these little, intricacies of the system, if you will, that are happening in real time that we're learning from.
So what happens with subs? How do they give out passes?
Yep, so that's a challenge, to be honest with you, because you never know, until the night before, usually the morning of, that a teacher or somebody else can be out. So substitute teachers have a code that they're provided by the school to use, that if they're subbing for Mr. Darcy, for example, they'll have a specific code that they use that shows us, and I see it right now because we have subs using it in the building today. It actually says substitute teacher 1, and we can put teachers' names into it. The system too. So we do have a few people in the building today that sub a lot, so we're going to put their names into the system too. What else you got?
This leads us to our next question. So when someone's trying to go to the TLC, how does that work? Like if, for example, freshmen aren't allowed in the TLC, but if Miss Mundy were like, hey, are you supposed to be in here? And they're like, oh, I have a pass. Does she check that, or what would happen there?
So students, like you're saying, freshmen, sophomores have the ability to go to the TLC if they receive a pass to the support center. Anyone could go to the support center, or if they need extra help, or if they're taking out a book or whatever you would use the TLC for. That being said, there's 2 ways that you get passes and receive passes through the system. One is by location, so like the TLC, cafeteria, office, etc. And the other one is by staff member name. So in that instance, if somebody needed to see Miss Monday for something, they could just simply get a pass that says to Miss Monday. It doesn't have to necessarily say the TLC. There are passes in there for the TLC built in by us that say Math Support Center, English Support Center, Study Hall, those sort of things already in place. We've already adjusted some of those. Like this morning, we didn't have one that said locker. And I had a teacher email me and say, hey, we don't have a locker drop-down menu because we're trying to make it easy for staff to use. I added it at 9 o'clock this morning.
And do you think that, like, by having these locations and all of these, like, teacher names, like, will that make it more secure? Like, basically, like, do you think that teachers will check every single time they see a student in the hallway if they have a pass, or will it just kind of still be like they might have a pass, they might not have a pass?
So the only time that would really happen is with security, admins, or if a teacher's on a hall duty throughout the day. So teachers, when they're on hall duty, they have their phone, which they can use the app. They also have a Chromebook in the hallway at times. So we've encouraged them to do that, to ask a student, right. So again, it doesn't change anything on our end, being staff members. If you're walking in the hallway, they're usually asking, hey, do you have a pass to be here, or X, Y, and Z? So instead of seeing a physical pass, they could just click on the computer and see that you have an active pass at that time.
So our next question is, some of the teachers who have been talking about it talked about like the flagging process and like how some students can get flagged if we go over some kind of limit. I was wondering if you could just elaborate more on like what does it mean to be flagged and what the consequence of being flagged would be.
Yep. So again, if you think of like what's different. So in the past, if you were a student who was asking to go to the bathroom or going out in the hallway several times throughout the day, it took the teacher saying something for us to know. So the only thing that's different is, as an administrator on my end, I could see every pass that's written throughout the entire day. So I can see in real time if somebody is abusing the system itself, because it gives you a number. Student X has been out in the hallway 7 times today. That's what I'm going to take a look at. But there are no current limitations in place. And what I mean by that, the only active one is a 25-person cap on bathrooms. And honestly, that's just a guess on our end at this point. That 25 doesn't include students who are going to see their school counselor or going to the nurse or going to another office. That only hits 25. And there's a safeguard on that as well. So if the cap's 25, if you're a student in a class and the building has hit that cap, but you have to go to the bathroom, you have to go to the nurse, the teacher can override that as well. So the only limitations or follow-through would be are already happening too. We already have students in this building who are out of class way too much. This just gives us real-time data that we actually can be more proactive instead of reactive.
So would the consequences of being flagged, would that, like, what would that entail?
It kind of depends. So the flagging thing, that's an interesting concept. So right now there's a cap on bathroom time. That's 10 minutes. And again, that's a guess on our end. So most schools who use this system, they have a 10-minute cap. Some schools have 5. All that does is, in my end, like what happens is it changes color. So if student X is out, gets a pass, active pass, that's green. If you're out of the bathroom or out of class for more than 10 minutes, it turns yellow. And all that means is that then maybe I follow up with that teacher or with that student. That's all it really means. It really is case, just like anything else in life and in school in general, it's case-by-case basis. This should give us real-time data to support students. It shouldn't be inhibiting you from doing things.
Yeah, so our next question is, if we have this new ePass system, why can't all the bathrooms be open, including like the freshman bathroom, since there's like the 25 limit?
So again, that's something that we could do. I acknowledge that we can do something like that, because to your point, if you have freshmen right now, it could take them a couple minutes to just get to the main bathrooms that are open throughout the day. I'm not against that, and nobody in the school is against that. I think that's just traditionally what's happened at law over the last 5-6 years plus, before I got here too, to be honest with you. What you can do to your point is, instead of having a 25 cap for all bathrooms in the building, you could put singular caps on locations. You can say like bathroom in the freshman wing has a 10-person cap, and this, you can do that. It adds a little bit to it on your end though, because then you as a teacher or you as a student has to select the right bathroom.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then it might block you.
Yeah.
So there's different things to it that you would have to do. And then we do have security supervision and administrative supervision that we follow throughout the day that we don't really tell you all about. It's just to keep everyone safe, accountable, and those sorts of things. So we would have to change those patterns too. But we're not against it.
I feel like there'd be pushback on like individual bathroom caps because then students would be like, oh, why do I have to choose a certain bathroom? Like, blah, blah, blah. Which, I mean, yeah, obviously that makes sense. It's just impractical.
Yeah, any little rabbit hole you open, you're going to go down to that point. Oh, I can't go to that one. Then you'd have to click, oh, I can go to this bathroom, though. That one's still open. So
would that be, like, would there be a way to, like, enforce that? Because, like, what's stopping a student from maybe being like, I'm going upstairs bathroom?
Good question, Gemard.
Going down?
There is nothing, honestly, because I wouldn't really know. The only thing that I could do in that case, if somebody was abusing the pass system or anything else, there's cameras everywhere in the building.
Yeah.
So I would have to know that way. I'd have to follow up. That happens whether you have an e-pass system or paper passes.
In that case, it's like there's not that much harm. Like, well, I said I was going to this bathroom, but then I went to this bathroom. That's not the biggest deal in the world.
Yeah.
Like, so I feel like that one would be kind of
this whole thought so far, again, just a couple hours of starting this, of people thinking we're limiting people from going to the bath. That's not at all the case. This is just an approach to use technology to be able to support students and staff and keep everyone safe. And to be honest with you, we're behind the times that we've been using paper passes. There's schools who've been doing this for a decade.
So kind of piggybacking off of what you just said, why do you think that there has been some student pushback and like some teacher pushback even with the new system?
I think because what you just said is new.
Yeah.
It's new to everybody. My honest opinion is that there's things, I've gone through the trainings, I've tested it out, but in real time, you don't really know what are going to be issues or concerns for your building or your school, because what works at one school may not work here and vice versa. So because it's so new, that's the pushback is, you're not going to have total buy-in with anything until you experience it.
Yeah.
My assumption is that a month from now, you're not going to be asking me about it on a podcast.
Yeah.
It's going to just be like, oh, I'm clicking a button instead of writing my name down. Yeah. But again, that's just an assumption. And we have great kids here, great staff here, so I'm not concerned with anything beyond that.
I think maybe some of the pushback that, like, I've heard within my, like, friend groups, but just, like, in the school in general is, like, I think some students are kind of concerned with, like, the 25 limit. And, like, I think a lot of students might be thinking that, like, oh, it's 25, like, we can't go to the bathroom. And, like, 25 seems like a very low number for a school with 800 students. So I think a lot of it might just be that, like, people don't realize that, like, you could still go to the bathroom even though.
Yeah, exactly. When I was walking around this morning, a few students brought that up to me, and I had to tell them, well, first of all, the 25, it's a few things on that. That's just for bathroom. So it's not if somebody has to go to nurse, get school counselor, whatever, like I said before. And it's just a hypothesis. It's a guess right now based on the number of students that we have. There's another school in the area that has 1,000 students. Their cap is 35. There's another school I know of, it's 30. So it's us guessing that 25 is going to work for us. So far, we haven't hit the cap, and it's been 5 periods. But also knowing that you still can go to locations like the bathroom, even if we're in that cap, because the teacher can override it while they're in there. So you're right, Gemard. It's not like, oh, you hit 25, you got to stay in the classroom until the next person comes back. It's not built that way. I
think that most students are also thinking, like, because, again, it's new, they're, like, thinking every rule said, every restriction is, like, 100%. Yeah. And they don't realize that just like with paper passes, there are case-by-case things. Like, with paper passes, like, even though, like, I don't really know an example right now, but, like, things just, like, it's flexible. And
that's real life. You can't just have these rules or policies or values and that line in the sand. There's going to be arrangements. There's going to be understandings. We have students in this building who you cannot put restrictions on because of legality situations, to be honest with you. I can't get into all that, obviously, with individual students. But we have students in this building who have break passes built in We have students in this building who have to go see their school counselor at certain times during the day. They're not going to be restricted from doing that. It's just going onto a computer.
If someone were to have like built-in break passes, how would that work? They would just say like, can I have a pass to go on a break?
Yeah. And it's already, anyone who's under that has already been inputted into the system on our end. So as administrators, we can set up locations. We could put up different restrictions. We could put in different little special situations like we're talking about. And again, because we're learning from it, I gave the example of locker. We didn't think of that one. So it's just honestly just something we didn't think about. So there's going to be adjustments that are made along the way.
So the people who are spending a lot of time in the bathrooms before, do you think they would just skip class now instead of going to class for it?
My guess, my hope, my assumption is no. Because again, if you think of school's different than when I went to school. Obviously, you guys know I'm a little bit older than you. I graduated high school in 2000 when you hardly had cameras. You had some cameras. There's cameras in every little nook and cranny of this building. The eHallPass system you have. What I think, honestly, what will happen, and my hope, is that students who have been looked at as possibly abusing pass systems in general, whether on e-passes or paper, may stop, because their thought process is going to be, now they're going to see in real time that I've been out of class for an hour. I usually don't find that information out until a day or two later, as crazy as that seems, because I'm not just sitting at my computer looking at an e-pass system or looking at Power School when you may not go to a class. That information comes to me like the next day or two later. I'll have that in real time now. So I would probably think a little bit more differently if I was a student who was skipping a class, because I'll see that right away.
Another thing that I guess kind of comes up, especially I feel like for upperclassmen who have like seniors who have to meet with their priv and then like counselor meetings with Miss Sylvia, will teachers be able to see, like, is there a way to like put those into the ePass system, like have it so your teachers see that on the thing?
Those are appointment passes. So yeah, we had school counselors test that out about a month in the last month as well. So there's the system, like I said, to go to a location, to come back from a location, to go to a person, to go back from a person, meaning an adult in the building. And there's also appointment passes. So a school counselor can put an appointment pass for you for, like, you bring up like your senior class meetings or junior class meetings or whatever grade you're in, and what special meetings that happen throughout the school year for students. You also, as a student, you know, usually right now you're going in and emailing the school counselor or going to guidance in this example and asking for an appointment to meet with your school counselor. You can request an appointment through this system as well. And the teacher or staff member sees that request in real time as well. So yes, to your question, other staff members will see that student X has an appointment with their school counselor at this time.
So overall, while it's new, how would you just like overall say the pass system has been going? Any bumps, anything that has gone specifically well?
Yeah, so I think that's what is going well, is that everyone's trying it. I don't have people here saying, I'm just not going to do it, because that's not an option. Okay, everyone has to do this. We're in this together to try to use this to be able to support each other. That's what Jonathan Law is all about, in my opinion anyways. So that's number one. Number two is, yes, there are hitches. Like I brought up the locker thing already. There's going to be hitches all along the way, because anything new, plus you throw in technology, and people understand technology in a few different ways. Some people don't know anything about technology. Some are experts and everything in between. So there's going to be things that come up, even though I think everyone will be comfortable in a few weeks with the system, a lot more comfortable. There's still going to be things that come up 3 or 4 weeks from now that we will have to make adjustments for. So I think it's for 3-4 hours into the system, it's going pretty well.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I had 2 subs earlier today. I think that I like witnessed some bumps with them. They were just, they didn't really know like how much they had to do versus how much the student had to do.
And they had no training.
Yeah.
Because like we don't know when a teacher's going to be out, and unless you're a building sub or somebody who comes in here all the time, we wouldn't think of you in training you. Every staff member went through a training, depending upon what your job is, like admins, teachers, secretaries, paras, all went through some sort of training. They don't have a substitute teacher training. It's us having to say, okay, here's exactly what you need to do. But again, with something new, you learn from that too.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, it was like basically the student had to like explain to the sub what to do, which didn't go so well either because they don't know what the sub's supposed to do. But I think overall, like, people will start to get used to it and like get the hang of it.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, we have great students, including yourselves. We have great staff. I think once we go through this for a few weeks, it's just going to be part of what we do here at Law. And I will add that Law, Foreign, and all three middle schools are doing this as well. The middle schools start using it tomorrow. Foreign started today.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Darcy.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all for having me on anytime.
Thank you for listening to episode 4 of The Court Report.
Be sure to stream all 4 episodes of The Court Report on Spotify or at The Morning Briefing on YouTube.